The air hung heavy, thick with unspoken tension. The conference room, usually buzzing with ambition, was eerily silent. A storm brewed outside, mirroring the turmoil within. 5 figures sat around the mahogany table, their faces drawn and pale in the artificial light. There was John, the aging CEO, his eyes narrowed, a vein throbbing in his temple. Beside him, Emily, the ambitious CFO, tapped a pen against her notepad, her face an impassive mask. Across from them sat Mark, the head of product, his youthful face etched with worry. Next to him, Sarah, the sharp-tongued marketing director, studied her perfectly manicured nails, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. And finally, there was David, the quiet and observant head of technology, his gaze fixed on the storm raging outside. The meeting had been called abruptly. Rumors of layoffs, budget cuts, and power struggles had been swirling for weeks. This meeting, everyone knew, would decide their fates.
We're facing difficult times. Drastic measures are needed.
We need to streamline, cut the dead weight.
My team is not dead weight.
Oh, come now, Mark. We all know you've been struggling to meet your targets.
Perhaps we should explore other options before resorting to layoffs.
Enough!
The tension in the room was palpable, a living, breathing entity. Suddenly, John gasped, clutching his chest. His eyes widened in shock and fear. He slumped back in his chair, his face turning an alarming shade of grey. The others watched in stunned silence as he struggled for breath, his hand reaching out as if grasping for something, anything to hold on to. Then with a final shuddering breath, he went still. Chaos erupted. Emily screamed, her carefully constructed composure crumbling. Mark jumped from his seat, knocking over his chair in his haste to get away from the table. Sarah sat frozen, her eyes wide with horror, while David, ever observant, calmly reached for his phone.
He's dead. We need to call the police.
Detective Inspector Elise Martin surveyed the scene, her keen eyes missing nothing. The conference room, now bathed in the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, seemed to close in on the 5 remaining occupants. Emily, still shaken, sat huddled in a corner clutching a handkerchief. Mark paced back and forth, running a hand through his hair, his face a mask of barely contained panic. Sarah, her initial shock replaced by a calculating coolness, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, watching the detective's every move. David, still remarkably composed, sat at the table, his gaze fixed on a point somewhere beyond the wall. "So," Detective Martin began, her voice sharp and clear, cutting through the tension, "tell me who had the most to gain from Mr. Smith's untimely demise?"